Mary Jeanne Roberts, welcome to the Lean Out podcast. How are you doing?
I'm so thrilled to be here. I had found you online through my own journey, so it's really exciting to now be on your podcast that I've listened to so much to help influence my own life. So thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. And I love hearing that. It's so fun when you meet people who just kind of find your content and really resonate with it. And we're aligned in a lot of ways.
Yes.
However, we are in completely different professional paths in the medical
hmm
field. So, for those who are listening, why don't you introduce yourself, talk about what you do, who you are, and why your work life balance might be a little different from others?
Yeah, I would love to. Well, my name is Mary Jeanne. I do go by Mary Jeanne. I had just recently reclaimed that. I somewhere along college and professional went into Mary, and I'm like, I'm not a Mary. I am very strongly a Mary Jeanne. So I am an 18-year practicing certified anesthesiologist assistant, which might be a new term for some people. Dawn, obviously, you're a physician anesthesiologist. And so we work alongside each other in what's called an anesthesia care team model. It's the method of anesthesia delivery that's most common in the United States, where one physician anesthesiologist can supervise what I say 4 of me. And that's not exactly, sometimes states have different regulations, but 4 of me, 4 certified anesthesiologist assistants or CRNAs, certified registered nurse anesthetist, can be in 4 different operating rooms. And since you're here, Dawn, Dr. Baker could be supervising me, and we work collaboratively. I'm an advanced practice provider. It's a master's degree, somewhere around 27, 29 months. And it is the hidden gem of the medical profession. It's a wonderful career, and I'm just really proud to represent a CAA. And as far as my work-life balance, I am really proud to say that I am a creative person who happens to also be good at delivering anesthesia. I did not know that about myself when I started, pre-med and got into what we call AA school, but I certainly found that out along my journey. And so I love doing a lot of things. And currently I work 1 day a week in the operating room delivering anesthesia at a large level 1 academic center here in Kansas City. And I teach. I have created a podcast and an educational company called Awakened Anesthetist. I'm about to start my doctorate in healthcare education to further that passion. And, the host of all the other beautiful, wonderful things. But I would say, probably as a cap off, I like to live slowly, which is what aligned me so well with you. Is you're really a role model for how do I have both? How do I stay inside medicine and also live slowly? So I'd say that's me.
Awesome. That was a great introduction. And I want to go down the path of talking a little bit more about what a CAA is, because even I, as an anesthesiologist, did not realize that CAAs have been around as long as even you've been practicing. And 18 years is more time than I have been practicing as a professional
hmm
anesthesiologist. I've only been 15, 16 years now. And so this particular professional path to being an anesthesia provider is not one that is available in every single state, and yet it's very much growing. So talk
Correct.
a little bit about how CAA is different from the other pathways.
Absolutely. I have a pretty unique experience as where I'm from a CAA family. The CAA profession is quite small, where there are about 4,000 plus, maybe now 4,500 of us now in 2026 versus ballpark 60,000 physicians plus or minus, and maybe 60,000 CRNAs. So quite a significant smaller portion of the anesthesia community is a CAA. But my dad, Dan Ladke, was one of the first graduating CAAs ever in the 1970s. So the profession started in the 60s and started graduating people late 60s, early 70s. And that's how I knew about the profession. And he was CAA, somewhere less than 50, and I'm CAA somewhere less than 1,000. I think I'm 882. And then when I graduated in 2008, there was really this explosion of our profession because of the need for physician extenders that we know has continued, especially in anesthesia. And so there became more interest, more push to create more schools. And when I graduated AA school, there were 4 schools, and now there are almost 25 schools, 20 plus schools. And we're moving westward, we're moving more south. And it is a non nursing pathway. So versus the certified registered nurse anesthetist, where they become a nurse, they work in some sort of critical care, and then go on to get their now doctorate in nurse anesthesia. Or what you are, Dawn, a physician who went to undergrad, medical school, internship year, anesthesia residency, fellowship possibly. I am an undergraduate with a 27-ish month master's degree, specifically in the art of anesthesia, in the practice of anesthesia. What else can I tell you? I could talk forever. I love this profession so much. What other questions? I know you've recently kind of come in contact with working with some CAAs. So that's proof of our expansion.
Yeah, so in Utah and Nevada, they're relatively new, which are
Yes.
my main states of practice. And I have recently been doing a locum tenens assignment, as I have told people on the podcast before, in Michigan, and they're much more common there.
Yes.
And there are quite a few. And so I have been practicing alongside some CAAs recently as well.
Hmm.
And I have had some great experiences, as we talked about offline. I just think this is an important topic to bring up to the audience, no matter if you're in the medical profession or not, because everyone at some point is going to be a patient in the hospital, and likely you're going to have surgery at some point in your life. There's not a lot of people that get off scot free without having any surgeries at all.
Yes.
And so, because of that, you need to be aware of who the different people are, what their roles are. And one other distinction I do want to make, and you can clarify if this is correct, is that there is no pathway for complete independent practice for CAAs. There is a supervisory role for a physician anesthesiologist with all CAAs. Isn't that correct?
That's absolutely correct. We were established, we actually created by anesthesiologists to specifically work in the anesthesia care team model, meaning we can only work at facilities where an anesthesiologist is present and working as well. They can't be even remotely supervising us, quote unquote. And so that's one of the strengths of our profession, where we're team based. There's like this huge influx into my profession right now because people want to work in a team, people want to feel supported, people want to have a collaborative relationship. And yeah, it's honestly one of the strongest parts of my profession. So yeah, thank you for making that distinction. And that again is distinct from a CRNA who can work in that anesthesia care team model. And many, many do. The majority of CRNAs work in an anesthesia care team supervising model. But they also can work independently in some states, but not all.
Right. And independently can mean that their supervising physician can be a non anesthesiologist in certain
Yes.
circumstances.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
as you can imagine, there are certain safety issues with that depending on the patient population. And so, yes, the team model is something that I think everyone agrees is safety in numbers.
Yes.
There's more people to collaborate with, people to
Mhm.
rely on, people to help out if something goes wrong. And as patients are aging in our population and also getting more medically complicated, this is becoming more and more of an issue.
Yes, absolutely, and that's why we're seeing such an explosion of the CAA profession right now, among just it's like a really cool little niche, and as we're probably gonna talk about, it has allowed me to do all the other beautiful parts of my life. I'm not sort of trapped in a hospital every single day.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about your career trajectory because you are now taking on more of an educational role after
Yeah.
so many years. So, what prompted that? And talk a little bit about all of your different passions and how you've been able to work those into your life.
Yeah. I would say 2017, I first got the inkling that I couldn't or did not want to work full time forever. I had been at the same hospital then for almost 10 years. It was the hospital I started at right out of school, a full time, very typical anesthesia role, especially pre-COVID, where you're working 24-hour shifts and 16-hour shifts and nights and days and weekends, and kind of you are at the mercy of what the hospital, and I worked for a private anesthesia group, what they needed from me. And I had my third child in 2017 and was like, I wonder, that first inkling of, I wonder if something could be different. And I went to my anesthesia group and spent a bunch of time, probably almost 2 years, trying to figure out how I could work differently, part-time, 310s, some sort of different scenario. And it just wasn't a fit. It wasn't something they needed from me at the time. And so I ended up, um, this is kind of like a funny turn, but I ended up starting a hot fudge company. My family makes the most delicious hot fudge you've ever tasted. And I thought, well, if I can get this on store shelves, I can maybe compensate some of the loss, and I can maybe work locums. I can work locums anesthesia, maybe a week or 2 weeks a month, and then sell this hot fudge because I could not find a part-time job. It was just very rare to find a part-time job pre-COVID in anesthesia in my area. And then lo and behold, as life works out, when you take a step towards what you really want, sort of the doors open. I ended up finding a part-time job. It was a perfect match. And I kind of let the hot fudge queen of the universe dream go. And now I'm just back to making it for like gifts and presents. But that part-time job started me at 3 days a week. Then COVID happened. I went down to 2 days a week. And I started picking up some extra shifts PRN at that academic hospital I'm at now. And, kind of pressure testing, like, will they ever call me off? Do they need me every day? Can I pick and choose my dates? And after about a year and a half, I was pretty convinced that I could control my schedule in the way that they would need me. Like I could say, hey, I'm going to work Tuesday and then Thursday, and then 6 weeks later, I'm going to work these days. And they just always said yes. And so I made the choice to leave my group insurance, my part-time job, and just go PRN at this academic hospital. I work one 12-hour shift a week. Usually it's Thursdays. And I love it. I like look forward to going into the operating room every day that I'm there.
Talking about this hot fudge company, I
Yes.
love it.
Yes.
I want to refer listeners back to an early podcast episode I had with my friend Cherie Wiggins, who is a PM&R doctor.
Hmm.
And she also, like you, very multi-passionate and has an entrepreneur flair to her. And in between jobs for PM&R, she actually started a lactation cookie company. And it
Mm.
just reminded me so much
Yes.
of her story, where it's like, all right, this job isn't right for me. Well, guess what I'm going to do in between when I'm looking for something else in my medical profession? I'm going to do this other thing that I really like that is totally unrelated. And I love it when people do that. I mean, it really takes some courage to do something like that. And so I wanted to point that out. And I'm going to link that old episode in the show notes too, where she talks about that. And then the other thing, there's a term that I just wrote down on my paper here where I take notes when we're talking, and it was pressure testing. I thought that was
Mm.
a great term. I
Hmm.
love that you brought that up. Talk about a little bit more in detail what that looked like. Like each month you're requesting something a little more unusual on your schedule.
Hmm. Yes, absolutely. So one of the things I did to pressure test, like, hey, could I be happy in this existing structure, or could I make small tweaks, was I volunteered for the role of being the scheduler. So controlling the entire anesthetist. There were CRNAs and CAAs at this private practice, controlling our schedule, which, I didn't get to pick and choose my days, but I got to see the schedule before anyone else. And so, yes, there was a little bit of more flexibility there in it for me, even though I was still working full time. I I want to say, I know you're okay talking about finances. So much of my flexibility was found because this profession that I have chosen pays well and has given me the opportunity to save money,
Mhm.
save a large emergency fund. And so there was a large, like 2.5 year period where I was paying people out of my own pocket to work for me. And that took a lot of self-worth work on my end. It also took a lot of reassurance because every time I paid someone to work for me, I thought, oh, well, I could probably just go in and maybe the call wouldn't be that bad. Or, what am I really going to do on this Tuesday? I'll just, it's fine. And then every time I had to say, no, like you cannot pay me for my time. My time is precious, it's priceless. And so, it was like these small tests of like, how much do I need and what's worth it to me? And I've been doing that since then, that pressure testing. That's also how I've figured out what's enough for me, doing a lot of little pressure tests. Like, how many times do I need to go out to eat over the course of a week to feel like I'm living a really abundant, easeful life? Because it turns out I don't want to go out to eat every single day. I don't want to go to fancy restaurants every day. I like to eat at home this many days. And then I like to have that, ooh, let's go get a special treat with my kids some other day. And so I just have done that with every little area of my life. What kind of vacations make me feel really abundant? Turns out I don't want to go to France. I want to go, camping in the Ozarks. And so it's really helped me figure out where to align my efforts and where I can scale back. And yeah, it's served me really well. And I will also say this is not possible if I didn't have an emergency fund as that safety, that comfort. I have a really supportive husband, and we're aligned in everything we want. He also works part-time. I mean, I just feel like some right decisions have been made for me. Like I bought my house during the foreclosure market, and I just sort of things have fallen together in a way that feels really aligned.
Yes. So my husband and I talk a lot about the idea of fortune and luck versus you make your situation. And I think there's always a combination,
Yeah.
you know. It is not all luck
Hmm.
and timing, but there
Hmm.
is some of that aspect. And then there's also you have to be aware of the
Yeah.
timing and take
Yes.
advantage of things. And this pressure testing idea and how you just alluded to the fact that you can bring it outside of work and test other things in your life. I mean, that's really lifestyle design. So
Mm.
it very much applies. I love that term. I haven't ever heard anyone use it, and I'm going to start using it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's how I've gotten where I am is like I've seen where my edges are. Like, ooh, I want a little more luxury there. I want an hour and a half in the morning with my coffee on the deck. And to do that, I'll give up something here. And it's taken time. It's taken a lot of time. And if I would have been able to tell myself one thing, like a decade ago, I would have said, you're going to get there. It's going to take time. And that's okay. That's normal. And for so long, I was looking for people who would give me the fast way, the straight line there, and that's not real. Which is why I love your content so much because you are so much living this slow middle way and showing the back and forth of abundance. It's in a flow. It's not always riding high. It's ups and downs. And for me, I also love that because when I have a down, then when I have that next up, I'm like when I get a bad sleep, and then the next I get a good sleep, I'm like, oh, that good sleep was so good because I had a bad sleep. It helps see it. So
Yeah, very
yeah.
much, very much. And the idea that you don't have to always be making more, more, more. I
Mm,
need more. When you were talking about selling shifts, this does not only apply to your profession. I mean, this applies to many people in a different practice. I wanted to point out and go back to that part in the conversation and just say that open your mind to the idea that you don't have to do that only like when you're pregnant or sick
mhm,
or
yes,
going on vacation. There are
mhm,
other reasons. You can just do it
yeah,
just because you want a longer morning
mm,
with your
yes,
coffee or
mhm,
whatever it is.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, and that was a hard decision. That was one of the stumbling blocks that I kept going back to because money does help make life easier, and until you really have a tight understanding of how much feels enough, and that you let go of more being good, that like, this is enough and I'm happy
Yes.
there. And then I can use that surplus to keep fueling my enough. But that took mentally, because I think we're just so programmed to be like, I want to work to the maximum of my capacity. I want to make as most money as possible. Um, yeah, it was really kind of like a mind screw. Like I had to keep
Mhm.
reassuring myself, no, this is what I want. You cannot pay me enough. Like my morning coffee deck time is priceless. It doesn't matter how much I have to pay. Again, and I want to caveat with it, like the privilege of I have already saved enough to make these decisions. Like that, that is such an
It's the
important part.
foundation.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Mhm.
Yeah. Um, and also the idea of enough, it's non-monetary too. There's the
Mm,
monetary enough, and then there's the psychological pressure, the societal pressure of, am I doing enough? Do I feel like I'm enough? Because am I an underachiever? You know?
Mhm. Oh gosh, yes, yes,
I was just
absolutely.
thinking about this on the way over to talk to you because
Mhm,
I was thinking about how when I publish my podcasts, I don't do the whole show on YouTube. I only do this part of the conversation,
mhm,
basically because I don't want to deal with trying to film the intros and the outros that I do and
mhm,
like set them up. And so I'm like, well, I'm not gonna just put the whole episode on YouTube. I mean, how many people are
mhm,
really watching on YouTube? But if I really wanted to like grow some huge following, I should be doing it perfectly, but I'm not. And I thought, well, is this being an underachiever? Well, kind
mhm.
of, but does that have to be a bad word? I
Exactly.
don't think it does.
Yes. I totally agree. I like the word intentional for all things. If I substitute intentionality instead of underachiever or lazy, it's like, no, I'm just intentional. And the thing also is that like only you can know when you're being intentional versus maybe you're not pushing yourself in ways that you still want to grow. And that like no one else can see that except for you. There's just a huge component of my journey as well, like self-awareness, healing, just a lot of inner child work, a lot of shame work. So much of that underachievement and am I enough? That external validation is all rooted in shame. So truly years to like unpack that has been also part of my journey.
Yeah, so we should definitely get to the part where you start studying mindfulness and stuff, but
Yeah.
also you're obviously very dedicated to your profession. I mean,
Mhm.
you have whittled down your work to being very part-time, as have I,
Mhm.
and yet you are still dedicated in that you are very into advocacy,
Yep.
education. And so what made you want to do that, and how does that intertwine with the mindfulness piece for you?
Mm, there's a lot here. Um, I would say I have always known since I was a little girl that I want to make an impact. And it's been decades figuring out what that looks like and what does that actually mean for me. And because my profession is quite small and also at this inflection point of just rapid growth, I have the opportunity as a practicing CAA to make a big impact if I want to. Like I just recently founded our first ever professional wellness committee. We didn't even have a wellness committee until I petitioned the board to create one. It's opportunities like that that I can see, like, yes, this is the alignment in my life where I can make impact. And also, um, this light bulb has come on with teaching. Like, if I look back on my life, the moments that have really mattered to me are when someone has seen me and really picked me up and helped me along. And oftentimes those people are teachers. And I can see a really direct overlap in getting teaching, sort of the pre-AA community, and really helping them understand the profession and also helping to cultivate what types of students can become CAAs, become my colleagues so that they can keep promoting this wonderful profession. And also there's this piece of teaching me, like teaching the 18-year practicing CAA who often in medicine, as you know, are teaching clinically the younger students. And so but we're not learning how to teach, and so that's really where I'm wanting to, like, kind of move forward with this impact. And also I will say that I have realized really recently is that I don't want my drive for impact to force me to move any faster than I wanna move. That if impact has to wait because I'm moving slowly, because I don't wanna say yes to every opportunity, because I wanna not be traveling right now because I have 3 smaller children, that means that, like, I know I'm moving in the right direction, but it's gonna be slower, and that's okay. I mean, that's been a huge piece that's just been revealed recently, like, in the last,
Mm,
like, year, 6 months.
mhm. That reminds me a lot of my conversation I had with Doc G or Jordan Grummett about the book, The Purpose Code, and I would
Mm,
definitely recommend it to you if you have not read that. I recommend it to all the audience because he talks a lot about how true purpose is something that is cultivated over time. It
mm,
isn't this lightning bulb, like, I need to be the most famous person. And you were talking about impact in the beginning, and that's what I thought about. It's like impact can be quiet. it can be
Yes.
personal. It doesn't
Yes.
have to be over the top. I am going to be the star of my
Mhm.
profession or my
Mhm.
sport or whatever.
Mhm. It's been a maturing of my understanding that impact. At first I thought I'm going to change the world. Literally, like I could do everything. You and I and people listening are so capable. It's tantalizing to be like, "Oh, I could really make huge capital I impact." And sort of over my maturing, I've realized like, no, it's this and it's this little bucket. I'm kind of if you're not like, yeah, I'm making little buckets and like little bits. And I also think so much of my beautiful life is I knew I wanted to wake up in the morning, assess my energy, my creativity, how I'm feeling, in terms of like my cycle and my emotions, and then direct my energy into what fuels me for that day. And that takes a lot of space, white space, and it takes a lot of freedom and it takes a lot of allowing. And because I can do that, I know that I'm exactly where I need to be and things will unfold as they're supposed to. If I don't have energy to like push towards the professional wellness committee that day or something, then like great, I'll just put that off till tomorrow and do something with my energy different today. Like maybe fill up my kids or something or fill up myself.
So, how on a kind of a daily or weekly basis do you work your mindfulness practice into your life? What does it look like?
It has looked like different things, which is wonderful, which is one of the things I want people to know about mindfulness is that you can get pretty rigid with like, no, it has to be following the breath in and out on a cushion. And I love this analogy of likening mindfulness to exercise, where really we're exercising this noticing muscle, which I will say, like, anesthesia providers are really good at this. We already have a really great noticing muscle. We just need to like use that muscle in a different way, really this inward looking, this self awareness. In terms of the exercise analogy, it's like you could be at a gym really doing all the things. That's like sitting on your cushion on your mat, really having 20 minutes of silence. Or you could be, like intermittently doing dumbbells or like squats throughout your day. And that might be like a mindful walk or my coffee deck time, sitting in silence for 5 minutes, taking 3 or 4 nice physiological sighs or deep breaths or, um, I mean, I could go on. And then the other thing is like mindfulness happens for me now throughout the day. So sort of in the exercise analogy, it's like lifting a box. Like lifting a box, a heavy box is some form of exercise and mindfully slowing down when my child is upset and like getting on their level and looking them in the eye and not reacting right away. That's a moment where mindfulness, because I've done the heavy lifting and because I've practiced it so much, it can be infused throughout my day. But in terms of like practical, I like to sit on my cushion. I like to meditate. I like to do it that way as well. So that's not a hard lift for me. I love to sit in silence. I'm talking to you right now in the corner of my family room, but I'm building an office and a little meditation loft in a couple rooms next door to this. And I just like am filled with excitement thinking about going up there in the morning and like sitting on my cushion and just being quiet. And I like to follow my breath a lot. And sometimes I just kind of like blank out. Yeah, it's definitely difficult to start that first minute or two, but then it starts to feel good. And it's like, ooh, I want to keep doing this because it feels good. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
How old are your kids?
12, 10, and 8.
Okay. So I have a 10-year-old, so
Yes.
they're kind of similar age.
Yes.
One thing that I have noticed recently that is an opportunity for mindfulness for me, since we're talking about expanding your idea of what mindfulness
Mhm.
is that when my daughter says to me, "Can you play with me?"
Mm.
or "Can you come outside with me and sit in the grass?"
Yes.
Resisting the urge to,
Yes.
number 1, say no, number 2, to bring the phone.
Yes. Uh-huh. Mhm.
Or,
Multitask
just
with it.
make up some sort of excuse and, like, resisting that, like, uncomfortability because it
Yes.
can be uncomfortable. I mean,
Yes.
she is obsessed with our chickens. We have
Mm.
this whole big flock of chickens. She wants me to go in there, and she wants me to sit with her and just talk to the chickens
Mm.
and, interact with the chickens and let them
Uh-huh.
hop on me and all this, and I have to just let that happen. That's an
Yeah.
opportunity for
Yes.
mindfulness that
Absolutely.
some people may not even recognize.
Absolutely. Yes, we're similar, Don. I always say I'm not the puzzle parent. Like I don't enjoy that. I really have to step into filling their cup up intentionally if I'm going to play.
Mm.
And so I absolutely see that as a moment of mindfulness, and I also think you can lean into it. Like, okay, maybe I don't really want to like be with the chickens, but like I'm going to use this as some time to like follow my breath or
Yes.
to, yeah, like notice my thoughts and kind of let them swipe away, like do component of a mindfulness practice while you're playing with the chickens.
Right. Yeah. I just, as a perfect example of that, said to myself, like, I'm just going to look up at the sky and I'm going to
Yes.
see what's in the sky right now. There's
Yes.
different cloud formations. We've got monsoon season going on. And
Mhm.
so that is also another way to practice mindfulness. And I love that you pointed out to the audience, which I have done also many
Mhm.
times, that it does not have to look like a specific thing, just like a
Mhm.
workout doesn't have to look like a specific thing, and it can
Mhm.
even be bite-sized
Yes.
moments.
Yes. I would say I started with a gratitude practice. I was like, find your easiest entry point. What's the thing that is like the lowest lift for you? And a gratitude practice can be a mindfulness practice. You have to sit and like inventory your day and think about it. And it felt good. And so then I kept doing it and doing it. And then I started, trying other forms of mindfulness. And now I love a personal practice. I love my personal practice. I'm also interested in sort of showing the anesthesia community that we're really good at this muscle of noticing and that we have this super skill. And all you have to do is recognize it and then like turn it in on yourself because we're already listening to all the beeps and the bells and the whistles and the breathings and the table up that said, from the corner of the room. And so you already have this like strength in you, which is exciting to me to bring it to our community, to the anesthesia community.
Yes, that is such a good point. I had never really thought about it in that way. I love the idea of exercising the noticing muscle,
Mhm.
and we are, as a group of healthcare professionals, apt to be able to do that.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love it, and,
Yes.
using different kinds of senses too, because in the
Mhm.
operating room, you're not just using sight, you are using a lot of hearing
Mhm.
and sometimes touch,
Yes.
depending on, the case,
Sure.
and so
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, definitely a really, really good point.
Yeah, you're gonna get me into the art of anesthesia, which is really I think where this all folds in. That's my area of focus, my area of research and interest is defining and, like, uncovering that hidden art of anesthesia, making it teachable, and then bringing it to my CAA community as well as, the CRNAs and the physicians as well.
So you're pursuing a doctorate of education now. What do you intend to do with that? Is this
Yeah.
kind of
Mhm.
thing that you would like to do?
Well, I would say I'm open. I have a running list in my notes of like, ooh, research idea, ooh, thing I want to look into. And it all has to do in this realm of the art of anesthesia, really the soft skills, which are just they're just 50% of the job is that interpersonal communication and all the navigating failure and feedback and all that stuff. And so I have been teaching now just on my own. I've created this business, this educational business to teach pre-AAs, people who want to be AAs, students. So I've been teaching in some of our schools, and then the educator, so the practicing CAA who are acting as educators, preceptors, they're called in medicine for the AA students. And I'm kind of seeing what I like what really draws my attention, where are the things that I'm interested, most useful, most valuable, which of those three communities. And so I'm hoping my doctorate gives me more tools to more skills. Like you don't learn how to teach when you're in medicine. You just see one, do one, teach one type of a deal. So I know there's a wealth of skills that I want to get better. And I also am wanting to hone, which group or maybe all three do I really want to focus my impact as we talked about before.
Yeah, impact is such a great word for you. And this just fits so well with what you've been doing. I'm so excited for you because
Thank you, Don.
just a way to go deeper
Mhm.
in that education piece. And you already know that you love it. That's
Yes.
because you've done so much
Yes.
exploration And
Yes.
you've designed your life. You're a perfect example of someone who's designed it to be able to facilitate that
Yeah.
exploration.
Yes, absolutely. And it's been hard. Like I also think it's important and I wish I had heard someone say a decade ago that it can feel like the thing you're excited about in the morning and then you sit down to do it and you're like, I'm nervous, I'm scared to teach or what so much of my hangups was on being accepted and belonging and like being seen as someone who has value and like that's my own personal wounding and that all comes up when I'm wanting to teach and make impact. Because oftentimes you don't know. Like a teacher doesn't see their impact often. If you're lucky, maybe in the year or a couple years or someone writes you a nice note a decade ago, later, but it is a leap of faith that, hey, if this is still on me every time I wake up and it's still something I want to do, this is where I want to keep pursuing. And like, hey, it might shift. I'm also okay with that. I trust myself now enough to know that whatever's meant for me is coming my way. And I just keep stepping in the direction of what feels good and moving slowly and taking my time and pushing myself when I need to. And we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
I love that. And you were right before we started recording. You were like, I think we're going to have to stop ourselves on this
Yes.
conversation or it's
Yeah.
just going to go forever. You're very right in that. So
Yes.
I want to ask you before we go, Mary Jeanne, if there is any other advice that you would like to give the listeners, professionals of all types, related to your life and path and just anything that you think people should know.
Yeah, I've said this a couple times, like, "Oh, I wish I knew this," because so much of my journey was looking for people who are talking about this middle way, and I have also found that when you are living your most beautiful life, you're oftentimes not on social media. Like, you're kinda living your beautiful life. You're not showing people that you're living your beautiful life. And
Yeah.
so something else I would have really liked to hear earlier, um, again and again, is that every time you say yes to something that feels good, it also means that there are a thousand no's that also would have felt like somewhat good as well, or really good as well. And you do have to choose. It doesn't mean it's a single choice forever and ever, but so much of what I wrestled with early on is like, well, I could do it all. And while that may be true, that is not the life I wanted to lead. And so really letting that grief of like, hey, there are a lot of other cool things I could do, and I'm just not going to do them right now, if ever. And moving through that grief did get me where I want to go. But because the grief is there, I was like, oh gosh, this is wrong. And it's not wrong. That's just normal. So yeah, I want to give that encouragement.
Yeah, I always say to people, you can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Thank you so much, Mary Jeanne, for being on the show and tell the audience where they can find you if they want to learn more about your work or connect with you.
Absolutely. I have a website, awakenedanesthetist.com. And I like to say, if you're interested in anesthesia, you'll know how to spell all those words because it is tricky. I'm on, most of the socials. Instagram is probably where I'm most showing up. I'm also LinkedIn and TikTok at Awakened Anesthetist. I love to do voice notes over DMs. That's probably the easiest way to ask me a quick question and I'll voice note you back. And I have 100 episodes on a podcast talking about the profession. So if you're now interested in being a CAA, I'll direct you to that Awaken Anesthetist podcast. And yeah, just give me a shout if you want to chit chat. I'm here for that.
They may want to ask you about fudge.
I mean, I was almost the hot fudge queen of the universe. So it's, if you know me in real life, you know that I'm not joking. It is the best hot fudge. And if you now go to the hot fudge aisle, you will see there is only just kind of yucky Hershey's. And I was just there, I had a FDA approval and, I was just about to go on store shelves and then I got my part-time job. And so I decided, hey, it's actually kind of hard to make hundreds of jars of fudge in a commercial kitchen alone. So maybe I'll just go back to my own kitchen.
I love that part of your story.
Yeah, it's fun.
Again, thanks so much for being on the show today.
You're so welcome, Don.